Happy Halloween, Gustavus. I'm sitting below two dead men on the third floor of Old Main, where legend has it a cow was brutally murdered. We dusted off GAC TV archives to bring you this story.
Always been interested in like paranormal stories and ghost stories and things that have gone on, especially here at Gustavus. So I paid attention when I would hear these stories from other people, and I've been lucky enough to actually like have my own experiences with a few of them. My first one would be in Rundstrom. There's a small chapel downstairs, and in that chapel, I think it was in the 40s, a woman was supposed to be married down there to her fiance, but he was off fighting in World War II, and he was killed in action. So on her actual wedding day, she ended up hanging herself down in the chapel, and they say now that early in the morning you can see her figure swinging back and forth. I lived 2 floors above the chapel, in the room directly above it, and in my own room I would have the door open up for me, door closed behind me. I would have lights turn on and off, and you could just tell that something was going on that wasn't really not normal. But the one really scary close encounter that we have ever had was me and my roommate were both asleep, and it was just freezing in our room, and I couldn't get over it, and I had to bring up 3 more blankets just so I could stay warm. And about an hour after I had put blankets on my bed and gotten to sleep, I woke up to my roommate who had turned on the light and was just pale white, and he had told me that he woke up to a woman standing over his bed watching him sleep. So that was the first time that we ever had actually seen her in our room. My second encounter at Gustavus happened in the theater building, in the Anderson Theater. Apparently, Evelyn Anderson still watches every show and sits in her director's chair. So if someone were to sit in her director's chair, she will do stuff during the show. Like a light won't go on at the right time, or a line will get messed up, and it's just superstition in the theater. But you also, if you insult Evelyn or the theater while you're in her theater, she'll get mad at you. And one day I was working here for summer programs, and I walked down into that room. I had to go get something out of it, and I started talking crap about Evelyn and the theater and some of the productions, just to see if I can get her riled up. At that moment, the door that I came through had slammed closed, and the lights that I had turned on all turned off. So I immediately left and came back the next day to get everything that I needed to get out. So the story goes that up on the catwalk, if you're on the catwalk, you'll the sister in the blue, which is the mean sister who was always jealous of her other sister, will push a person off the catwalk. So when you're up there, you feel a sensation of vertigo, and you feel like you're about to fall. And as you're falling, you'll actually feel the girl in the yellow dress pull you back in, so you don't actually fall down. The last ghost is actually a cow that I know about. It's an old man, and if you know anything about cows, they can't walk downstairs if you walk upstairs. So apparently a bunch of frat guys or something brought this cow up the stairs of Old Main, and in order to get it down, they actually had to slaughter it and throw it off the roof. So now a cow haunts the upper floor of Old Main, and if you're studying there late at night around midnight, you can hear it moo.
Hello again, from the Rundstrom Chapel. I hope you enjoyed that scare. Even scarier is the misrepresentation of women in athletics. I sat down with Gustavus female athletes and faculty to hear more.
In high school, just women's hockey was always so discredited, and we were always really good. We were always almost to state, but no one would ever come to any of our games, and the guys would always give us a hard time about, oh, it's just girls hockey, you guys can't check. And it's no, we're still really good, and we were a lot better than the guys, but it's a different sport, and people just kind of don't credit you as much for it. It's frustrating because I think women in men's sports now, I just feel they're played differently, so I don't think they really could be compared, but it's women are just as good as men at basketball or at hockey or at soccer. They might play it differently, but it doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to go. And I just think that when I work a lot of the hockey games, a lot of the sports here at Gustavus, and for volleyball, not as many people go to volleyball as they go to football, or not as many people go to women's basketball as they go to men's basketball. And I think it's just that people have in their mind that it's like a lower level game of play, and it's not. It's very different, but they're just as good.
I look at specifically media coverage, and so in terms of media coverage, you'll see at any level, whether it's high school, college, professional, and that sort of thing, and at any medium, so whether it's print or online or television and that sort of thing, you'll see about 40% of female athletes competing, but they only get anywhere from 2 to 4% of media coverage. And so I think that that's probably, especially for the professional athletes, probably the biggest thing hindering those athletes. And I think that it's important to think about Title IX as the most important piece of legislation that has changed the landscape for female athletes, but then also looking at compliance with Title IX. Female athletes are, just over about half of the population, and they're still only receiving about 44% of scholarships.
There's just not equally watched. There's not equal talk about it, and I think that's just has caused this idea that people go to less games and that there's less representation. But I think if someone took the step of covering more women's sports, then they would realize that more people would want to go.
Looking at how women's sports are represented at Gustavus, you look at all the murals on the walls in Lund Center and what the school newspaper covers, and I think women athletes are represented as a huge part of the school and a huge part of representing Gustavus athletics, which I think is really cool, regardless if sports bring in a lot of revenue or not.
I think sport offers an opportunity for transcending a lot of maybe larger cultural issues, but it has to be within a realm where those types of things are safe, I guess, or it's you're able to have those types of conversations because, again, if it's controlled by particular leagues that are looking to make money, I think those conversations are different than, thinking about what are some things that we can use sport to do, or how can we, again, teach girls to use their bodies in different ways than 17 magazine will tell them to use their bodies.
There's so much value to athletics. Everything that I've learned links back to swimming. A lot of my values, dedication, hard work, all that stuff comes from swimming. So I think regardless if female athletes are, getting huge crowds to come watch them, I just think the values are super important. And regardless if we're getting a lot of recognition, I just think it's super important for younger athletes to see that because it's super valuable.
To continue this conversation, be sure to attend the screening of Punches and Ponytails, followed by discussion with the filmmaker this Tuesday night. Have a safe Halloween, and don't forget your buddy. And this time only, keep it creepy, Gustavus.
Send shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul.